it's a lie. We know where you live, we know where you sleep. We're fully trained and we're on to the teeth. We saw you coming and we were ready. You can run, but you cannot hide. Cause we're coming for you now. You can run, but you cannot hide. Cause we're coming for you now. Deep state implosion overdrive. Cause we're coming for you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cause we're coming for you. Yeah, 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 yeah. They came out of the swamp. They tried to take down the president. The deep state and the Democrat rats must have made a suicide pact. We came to you with an offer of peace, but you rejected it and took to the streets. Russian collusion, no one will buy. We read the memo and
Holy
we
Joe
know
rock and
it's
roll
a
here.
lie.
Coming at you live and unscripted. Let's talk about the recent SYRIA attack based on a lie.
We know
Now,
where
have you
you
seen the
live, we
videotape
know where you
that's
sleep.
been going around?
We're fully trained and we're on to the teeth.
Oh, there we go. Have you seen the videotape that's been going around that supposedly shows Assad's government using chlorine gas on the population, on the peoples, in a basically a terrorist-controlled stronghold? Have you seen the video? Now, have you seen the whole video? I mean, the beginning of the video. Now, clearly, if you've seen the video, and I mean the beginning of the video, it's clear to see that the whole thing was theater, was terrorist theater. That you saw kids running around, jumping around, and then suddenly they went into action mode, crisis action mode, and they started pretending that they were suffering from some kind of chemical attack. Now, I hope you were able to see that video, or the beginning of the video, because if you only saw the ending parts, you know, it looks like some kind of crisis going on, and these kids are suffering. They're giving them some kind of a, like an asthma shot in the mouth, you know, a little asthma inhaler, and then they're hosing them down with water. No evidence that the Assad government did this. Now, this is old news. People, no evidence, right? This is a deep state, I don't know what you want to call it, conspiracy, deep state issue. Now, I mean, could you think about it? Why would Assad do this when he's already winning? He's already winning. He doesn't have to use chemical weapons. And supposedly, was it Secretary of State John Kerry under the B0MB administration promised that all the chemical weapons that Assad had were taken away and disposed of by the Russians and with U.S. help under U.S. like tutelage or observation. So what happened with that? How did that somehow not happen? Now, by the way, chlorine gas, anybody who knows anything about simple chemicals in your bathroom, don't mix bleach with ammonia because that produces chlorine gas, right? So when you're cleaning, don't clean with bleach and ammonia because you can actually kill yourself while you're cleaning the bathroom by accidentally mixing ammonia and bleach. That produces chlorine gas. How simple is it to make? Now, how simple is it to make chlorine? All chlorine is when you run an electrical charge through seawater, you create chlorine, all right, which bleach. Look it up. Look it up. It's so simple, baby. Electrical charge, seawater. So that's how easy it is for anybody to create bleach and then adding ammonia to it. Ammonia you can get from fertilizer, from urine, from anything like that. Okay, so whatever. That's neither here nor there. The important thing is it makes no sense that Assad would do this. And we know that the last so-called chemical attack from approximately the same time last year has been proven to be a fake. That was it. General Mattis came out 2 months ago saying that there's been no evidence to prove that the Assad regime did the attack from last year. Now notice how it's right in the beginning of the spring, right in the beginning of the spring, hoping that U.S. or some kind of coalition would invade Syria because the weather would be, I guess, a little bit better, perhaps, but maybe not. I mean, summers are really hot there, right? So it kind of makes no sense. But anyhow, if you look at the actual attacks, this attack was really kind of pinpointed at 3 different locations, just blew up a couple of buildings. So in reality, is it more of a symbolic thing? The United States has absolutely no strategic value or assets in Syria. There's no reason for us to be attacking or even thinking about invading Syria as a U.S. citizen, as a U.S. person, as a country. And anybody who's encouraging this intervention is we're forgetting about what we did been in Afghanistan for 17 years. What has that accomplished? Virtually nothing. We were in Iraq for how long? For over 10 years, 11 years, on false weapons of mass destruction claims. That turned out to be a complete lie. Wasted billions, if not trillions of dollars. Thousands of Americans wounded, injured, and even more. Tens of 20, 30,000s of people with traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress. For what? For absolutely nothing. Now, who's behind this? I mean, think about it. It's the same people as always. Google, I challenge you to Google this. It was in the Wall Street Journal or New York Times. Syria, Israel, Golan Heights for peace. Google something like that. In 2010, under the Obama administration, under U.S. auspices, secret meetings were held between Syrian officials and Israeli officials. And the plan, as always, has been land for peace. That Israel would give back the Golan Heights. Syria would then basically recognize Israel and have essentially a peace treaty, whatever. They would have normal relations, okay, and recognize Israel's right to exist. How easy it is for Israel to make peace with its neighbors. It's very easy. But Israel is refusing to give back the Golan Heights. Now, in 2015, they discovered large, massive quantities of oil and natural gas there in the Golan Heights. Still, this is Syrian territory that was captured in the 67 war, and Israel's refusing to give it back. Okay, it's real simple. Who is the culprit here? Okay, who is instigating or promoting a continual war in the Middle East? It is obviously the only one who benefits would be, at least in the short term, is Israel. The country of Israel would benefit because they would continue to destabilize their neighbors, flood Europe with refugees and migrants. That would also destabilize Europe and potentially the United States with unskilled, unvetted, third world savages who refuse to assimilate. Okay, so that goes on talking about a greater plan of these globalists, these one world order, new world order a-holes who want to just basically control the universe, control the world. Well, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because we are awake. We see what's happening. It's so easy to see what's happening if you just open your eyes and just look. It makes no sense for Assad to have done this. And, okay, let's just say hypothetically that he did do it. It still makes no sense. This is his country. He's fighting rebels who are illegally, violently trying to overthrow the government. You know, the U.S. Constitution says that or actually, yeah, that, you know, when you apply for citizenship or you apply for a visa, it used to be that if you were a member of a communist party or if you were a member of any organization that sought to violently overthrow the U.S. government, you were prohibited automatically from coming into the United States, right? To violently attempt to overthrow the U.S. government is a crime, right? It's a crime. So why isn't it a crime in Syria for these people to try to violently overthrow the Syrian government? The Syrian government is just trying to defend itself. They've been democratically elected. Assad has been democratically elected. And I thought that's what we were trying to do, is promote democracy around the world. Now, I've been to Syria. Now, it wasn't S-hole. I mean, compared to even this next door neighbor, Lebanon, which was like a semi-S-hole, but parts of it were really awesome. Parts of it were actually really beautiful. Syria isn't as nice. It's more deserty, and it's corrupt. It's definitely a lot more corrupt than Lebanon was. Maybe not as corrupt as Egypt, but I digress. But anyways, absolutely no value there, man. Except if you wanted to go on the road to Damascus like St. Paul and discover yourself, as I have done, maybe that's the reason to go there. But otherwise, it's nonsense. I've reported on this before. 2 weeks after I crossed the border, that same exact location, a gasoline tanker crashed through the border barricades, blew up, killing about 200 people. You see? The globalists had the timing all wrong. They got the timing all wrong, okay? I was there 2 weeks prior. They missed the target, all right? But that's called OPSEC, operational security. All right, we had good operational security. I digress, people. Listen, this has been a false flag. It's very clear if you watch the freaking video. Get the video from the beginning. I can't post it because it'll get demonetized and maybe even taken down, but it's out there. Mainstream media have posted it. Other people have posted it. The 2018 chemical attacks in Syria, you can Google that or YouTube that, and you'll find it. You can see, look at the beginning. You'll see kids jumping around perfectly healthy, and then all of a sudden, boom, they started going into actor mode, started falling on the floor. One guy, he kind of falls on the floor, then he starts kicking his feet, you know, and so obviously they've been coached on how to do this, and it was just theater. It was complete theater. Now, I'm not saying that there might not have been some chlorine gas that was released, but at least in this video, it's obvious that it was complete theater. Complete theater. Now, I don't know how Trump didn't get a chance to see that, or who's controlling this narrative, or if Trump is playing 3D chess and trying to throw a bone to these guys to keep them off balance so that he can do his other things elsewhere. I don't know. But the fact that it could lead to thermonuclear war with Russia is asinine. But luckily, it looks like, I think 3 people were killed in this last attack, and it looks like 3 buildings were destroyed, as far as I can see from the damage that has been shown, that's been available to be seen. And that's roughly it. But these are supposed to have been chemical factories. When in fact, if they were chemical factories, they wouldn't they have released chemicals into the air? No such reports of chemicals being released in the air. Again, this is just theater. This is just nonsense. And, you know, it's been very disheartening. It's been very troubling to see Trump, you know, toe this line, and somehow become, it appears to be convinced that this was a real attack. Yeah, somebody's saying that Assad's fate recalls the fate of Hussein and Gaddafi, attacks based on lies to gain control of these resources, their money, gold, and oil, and giving breath to Israel. Exactly. That's a really great summary. Now, you know, Libya, there was absolutely no reason to take out Libya. I didn't like Muammar Gaddafi, but he was trying to do good things with his people. He discovered billions of barrels of water in the desert, and he was pumping that to the people. And you know, he was doing a lot of infrastructure. And if you see videos, I've not been to Libya, but if you see videos of how it used to look, it was a semi-S-hole, but it was built up. It was, at least along the coast is where people live, because everything else is pretty much desert, was relatively decent for the people, right? And he was keeping Africans and also Libyans, anyone from Africa, from using Libya coastline to invade Europe. You topple Gaddafi, and you see part of the migrant crisis coming through to Italy and Spain is as a result of toppling Gaddafi. Of course, they raided Muammar Gaddafi's armories so that they could fund or they could fuel Syrian rebels, so-called Syrian rebels, who are basically just ISIS, Al-Qaeda, renamed in Syria, trying to take down Assad. Now, again, I think the bottom line here is who benefits? Obviously, Israel benefits. If you can destroy Syria and then say, forget about getting the Golan Heights back, we're going to keep this land, and, you know, there's supposedly massive amounts of oil and natural gas discovered on this property, this land. I think it's 250 square miles of land that is the Golan Heights occupied by Israel. So that's really the bottom line. That's the only explanation for this. And if you look at Genie Energy, I believe it's Genie Energy or Genie Oil and Natural Gas, you can see who's on the board of directors, who is involved in this company that is been granted the license to do the exploration in this occupied territory. So it all goes back. It all goes back to the same villains, if you will, the same bad guys who are perpetrating continuation of theft, corruption, and destruction around the world. This is Holy Joe Rock and Roll. These are my thoughts on the whole Syrian thing, this recent not invasion so much, but attack. Does it mean I'm off the Trump train? No. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that Trump couldn't have done something different. Like perhaps say, it looks like a false flag to me, and I'm not going to do anything. But I can kind of understand politically, if you think in the head, the geopolitics of him talking to North Korea next month, that maybe he wanted to continue to show that his strength, that he's willing to attack. And, you know, maybe since the attacks were actually very limited, caused relatively little damage, you know, you can't sort of forgive it, but you can almost understand maybe the strategic big picture of what he was trying to do, what he's trying to do here. So in terms of everything else, what I've seen, you know, like 90-ish% of what Trump's been doing has been good. So let's just stay on the Trump train. You know, obviously we can speak out. It's disappointing when someone that you really had a lot of hope in kind of goes off script. You know, basically from the campaign, he said these are mindless wars. He promised to keep us out of these Middle Eastern wars, and so far he has. If you think about it, so far these have just been pinprick attacks against Syria, and our footprint there is obviously very low. I think there's maybe 2,000 U.S. forces in Syria, and Trump announced, you know, a week or two before this attack, this chemical attack, that we were pulling out. So again, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't look right, and everything that I can see, everything that I've seen, shows us to be at least the so-called chemical attack by Assad was complete nonsense, was a complete fraud, was a false flag. And this is not the first time that the U.S. has been involved in false flags. So, anyhow, let's see what happens. This has been Holy Joe Rock and Roll, coming at you live and definitely un-mother-effing-scripted. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And remember to always make it happen for the captain, because you're the captain. And hang on, let me get this. It's hard to do this thing with one hand, man. You're the captain. Bam.
We came